Hi folks, and welcome back to my craft room. Now, in today's video, I'd like to tell you a story about the bear and the butterfly and kind of how all this started. Last year, I made a little gift for my husband that I made using Marquetry. I ended up having to hand cut a fair amount of the veneer after attempting to use my Cricut. The blade ripped through the delicate bird wood, and it just very quickly hit the limits of its ability with harder woods and the tricky grains like bird walnut. So it ended up being an arduous and intricate project that involved lots of failure, frustration, and reworking. I'd never done marquetry before, so I was bashing into every lesson on the way. Every online guide kept saying, don't use bird wood as it's impossible to work with on marquetry. But I thought it added a lovely texture, like the bear's fur to the image. So, as always, I dug in my heels and decided I would work out a way. And after much blood, sweat and tears, I managed in the end. And it now sits on the wall as one of my husband's proudest possessions. And this is why I love making things. You just can't get those sorts of responses from anything you buy in the shop. Now, I've been itching to use my new M1 Ultra that xTool sent me to test. It's just there. And I thought that this was a perfect project to see how far the latest technology has come. And it gives me an excuse to make a little gift for him as well. It's a device that's completely changing the world of crafting as it opens up new materials that were never possible before with a single machine. And it has so many extra features like lasers, inkjet printing and more that you can totally change the way you approach tasks. I'll point out a few as we go through this video. But I wonder how many of you will spot the twist in this project. You're already staring at one clue. I started by sketching away ideas and plans on my PC. I designed most of this in Photoshop and Illustrator, as I usually do, but if I knew then what I know now, I'd have done a lot more in xTool's free software, XCS. It offers a really intuitive and comprehensive set of tools that are not only great for doing the basics like adding images, shapes and text, but also more advanced things like tracing images to convert them to vectors and drawing lines and curves and more. I think of marquetry as being a bit of a blend between painting and solving a jigsaw puzzle. But unlike painting, where you have total freedom over the brushstrokes and colours, in marquetry, part of the skill is working with what you have, like the different types of wood and the natural direction of the grain. To help with this, I took photos of the different wood veneers that I'd chosen and used Photoshop to put them onto the design, which gave me a more detailed preview of the final project. The most exciting bit came when I placed the veneers onto the slats in the M1 and captured a photo using the mobile app which synced with the software on my PC. From my PC, I was able to align my jigsaw pieces with the actual wood grains positioned on my machine. For instance, I chose pine veneer for the sky because I thought its grain running horizontally beautifully emulated a sunset. For the ground, I wanted the grain to align vertically to create the impression of grass. And the bird grain in the walnut perfectly captured the texture of the bear's fur. It was brilliant to be able to just put these pieces and see them actually on the machine rather than trying to guess where all the grains were going to be. Selecting the right type of wood and thinking about the contrast between the dark and light parts and aligning the grain direction are, for me, some of the most enjoyable and artistic aspects of the marquetry process. Once I was happy with how everything was laid out, it was time to cut with the laser module. It's hard to articulate and do justice to the capabilities of the M1 Ultra. It's an amazingly versatile tool, but what it does is turn a 1x1 metre space into a multi-purpose craft room. I've had a top-of-the-range Cricut, I've had it for years, and it was amazing in that it let me deal with hundreds of materials in a small space. But this new machine is like a whole different era. I looked it up and there's over 1,000 materials that you can use in this. And it's of course great to have that flexibility, but what I find even more exciting is that it combines an inkjet printer, a laser cutter, a drawing robot, an embosser, an etcher and a blade cutter into a very compact unit. And that means that even if you like to specialise in just one material, like paper, it offers lots of different ways to work with that single material, and it opens up new possibilities for them, let alone using thousands of materials. So for those of us without a sprawling craft studio, the M1 Ultra is a game changer. There's also subtleties like you can inkjet print directly onto wood or thicker objects. And clearly you can't do that with a normal printer as it's just designed for thin paper. Plus, the xTool software is superb. I found it really easy to pick up and it was frustration-free, which is in contrast to my more recent experiences with the Cricut software, who now seem to be charging for features that were previously free. After the pieces were cut, I prepared a stable MDF backing board. And I have to say, it was so satisfying to remove the tiny, delicate pieces from the laser cutter intact, because this was something I really struggled with when using the blade cutter. What I've loved about this project is that cutting the veneer with a laser has allowed me to focus my time on the parts of marquetry that I love, like arranging the pieces and considering the artistic elements, without spending months manually cutting the wood or worrying about damaging the veneers with a blade cutter. For air quality, I made sure to use the xTool air purifier I was sent. Now you can just pop the exhaust pipe out of a nearby window, but this is a great additional accessory if you can't do that. It's really nice to see a company designing things that look nice in a craft room. I use the traditional method of using Marquetry tape. It not only holds the pieces together temporarily, but also helps squeeze the joins together nicely. You'll notice I printed an image of my design directly onto the MDF with the M1 Ultra first to guide me in placing each piece accurately. It made it so much easier, like doing a jigsaw with the answer laid out below it. And it also got me thinking of other uses for printing on wood, like marks for alignment of drawers and things. Once everything was securely assembled, I reinforced the MDF by gluing paper on the back to balance the image on the front to prevent warping. After clamping it down and adding heavy weights in the centre to prevent the veneer bubbling, I left it overnight, and when I opened up the press, I was pleased to see that the results were nice and smooth. I then carefully removed the tape with a damp sponge. After that, I added the remaining tiny pieces and I filled in any gaps with sawdust mixed with wood glue. I then sanded everything down by hand before using an orbital sander with a fine grit for the final passes. I was happy with how the picture was turning out, but it was missing one final touch: the butterfly. To achieve an iridescent effect, I added an abalone and mother of pearl inlay, which I cut with the laser. And then I added copper vinyl, which I cut with the fine point blade attachment. Then it was time for the magical moment of any woodworking project. Adding oil to hardwood always makes me smile. Suddenly all the wood's natural beauty pops and comes to life. I then carefully applied a glossy clear coat to seal everything and minimise any air contact. And I finally added the frame to finish it off. Right, the gift is ready and I really hope he likes it. And I hope it's given you inspiration too for the kind of projects you might want to do. I have loved using this M1 Ultra and switching between tools so easily, using a single piece of software as well. But here's the twist. You thought you were watching me doing one project, but I've actually been doing loads. So all that remains for me is to hide this bear behind my back, and I think I've got it from here. See you later, folks.